Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. If you want to take your shooting experience to the next level, then check out Coltac gear for 100% made in America products. Coltac manufactures specialty gear designed for long-range shooting, hunting, and other tactical applications. From their support bags, suppressor covers, shooting mats, and a whole lot more, Coltac is creating tough, durable, and innovative gear for both civilian and professional markets. Go to coltac.com to see all that they have to offer. That's cole-tac.com. If you are looking to get a new rifle or build your own, look no further than Kelbley's. Kelbley's actions and rifles have a higher level of accuracy and hold 92 world records set on either one of their rifles or rifle actions. Whether you're looking for an ultralight mountain rifle or wanting to compete in precision rifle shooting, Kelbley's has you covered. Go to kelbley.com to find out more or give them a call as their customer service is the best. That's KELBLY.com. Kelbley's. If you're looking to take your hunting to another level, there's no better way to do it than by subscribing to onX Hunt. If you want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, onX is the #1 GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust onX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. If you want to know more about onX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt or download their app today for a free trial. If you are wanting to become more accurate and deadly with your shooting, one of the best things you can do is upgrade your trigger with a Timney. Timney triggers are 100% made in America and have been since their founding, providing a crisp, reliable, and repeatable trigger break every time. I'll be shooting Timney triggers in my guns this year, and I hope you'll join me in shooting the world's finest trigger. Go to timneytriggers.com to get yours today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Today's episode is one for the future, as we are talking our current hunts from this year, but also planning for the future and using onX and the onX Hunt research tools and everything that's going on to make sure that you always have a plan, not just for this next year, but what is your plan for 5 years from now, or when the point systems change in states such as Colorado and just different things like that. So today's guest is Paul Ronto. He's been on the show before. Great episodes. He had a killer hunting season with deer, elk, and a once-in-a-lifetime mountain goat hunt. He's going to talk all about that and more, so get ready to buckle in. And if you're not an onX subscriber, go do so, because it is a game changer. 100%, I believe it is the one product within the hunting industry that truly can't be beat. There are other mapping softwares out there that are trying to replicate what onX does, but ultimately onX is so smooth and so good that it's the #1 thing that I want to advocate for people. You want to learn how to hunt? Get onX. You want to get better at hunting? Get onX. You want to learn how to hunt out of state? Get onX. You get the idea. So without further ado, Paul Ronto, man of the hour. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be back. Been a good hunting season. I love the intro. Yeah, get onX. Forget about all those other competitors. Just get onX.
Just get onX.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, onX single-handedly revolutionized hunting.
It's definitely changed the landscape of hunting for sure. We've been around 14 or 15 years now, and it has made hunting more accessible to more people. There's pros and cons to that, right? People want to argue it, but ultimately it's a tool that's in everybody's pocket, and it makes hunting easier for those that want to go deeper into the backcountry. You can be confident that you're not going to get lost. You can mark up where you're going. You can do some e-scouting. You can plan. Like it has changed hunting for me and for millions of people. So yeah, it's an awesome tool. I love working at onX, and I love the tool myself. So
That's
I'm a
awesome.
fan.
Well, I mean, just going, I just completed my 11th year of hunting, or, and when I got hunting, or got into hunting, my biggest thing is like, where can I hunt? I didn't actually understand, like, I was pulling out like paper maps or going to REI and getting Green Trails maps and trying to figure out like,
Totally.
dude, where can I get access? Where can I shoot a gun at? All that. So Onyx really opened my eyes to that, and not everyone that listens to this podcast is a brand new hunter. But with that being said, that is probably the best bang for your buck of an investment in yourself.
Yeah, I love that sentiment. I mean, I'm the same. I grew up hunting, so back in the '90s, we there were no apps, but we had paper maps, and they didn't tell you who owned what land and what land was public or private. And I grew up in the Midwest, so we had to go knock on doors. There wasn't a lot of public land. When I moved out to the West, it was like, man, there's national forest everywhere. So yeah, I could get a map at REI that showed all the national forests, and I could go hunt that. But I didn't know where like the BLM land was, and I didn't know where the walk-in access areas were. I didn't know all these special little nooks and crannies that Onyx does show you. And so like it was limited, right? Like a paper map only gets you so far.
Hmm.
The digital tool, it's updated regularly. You got awesome imagery. Like you can actually find places that you can't find on a paper map. So yeah, it changed my hunting for sure. I've been using it since the chip days when it was in Garmin's. But getting it on your phone, man, what what a nice upgrade.
Dude,
I mean, everything's on the phone these days, so that's not too special to a new hunter. But 10 years ago, you had to have a Garmin Rhino or whatever, and like it was basically just helping you get back to camp at the end of the night. Like it wasn't like that sweet, but it was better than a paper map. So yeah, I mean, it's come a long way for sure.
oh man, well let's talk about some of the updates for people who might not be aware of what's going on at Onyx. You guys are constantly always keeping your foot on the gas pedal and always improving, always making things better for the end user, providing more updates for elite members and a lot of things. One of the biggest things that helped me this last June when I was in Idaho hunting was I had to end up changing locations, and I was in the mountains, and I was like, how do I get to my next location without having to drive all the way out of the mountains, interstate system, get around? So, a few of the things is turn by turn navigation that is now a part of Onyx. Mind blown. Truly, I was like, holy smokes, this is what it always needed, but you guys finally caught up to it. And that for itself, I was like, that saved my hunt.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It will utilize some of the road systems that like Google and Apple Maps for some reason can't find, like dirt roads and county roads. And so like it will get you back in there into little unique places. You can drop a waypoint and just hit drive to or navigate to that waypoint, and it'll find your way to that waypoint on like Forest Service road systems. And it works if you've got a fancy car, it works with CarPlay and Android Auto. So you can just have it right up on your dashboard, which is awesome because you're looking at your map, but it's showing your waypoints, it's showing your tracks. You don't have to keep pulling your phone out while you're driving around. Like that's a super awesome benefit if you're in the truck quite a bit while you're hunting or you're moving locations like you had to do.
Hmm. Yeah. And then the the lidar that just started
Yeah,
with you
LiDAR is
guys,
awesome. Yeah,
okay, explain what lidar is for people in case they're like, okay,
yeah.
what are you talking about?
It's basically, I mean, I'm not a technologist, but it's like they can take lasers basically and get a better elevation terrain mapping of the ground. So lidar makes your topo map like look much more in depth. Like it looks 3D. We add hill shading to it, so it gives a topo map like a lot more contextual relevance. Like you can really see every little draw. You can see micro terrain. So like it is a major upgrade from the regular topo that we're all used to with just the lines trying to tell you your elevation changes. This really makes your topo look and feel like 3D. It gives you a ton of context. We actually call it HD topo instead of LiDAR because that resonates a little better. It's like a high definition version of
Mhm.
topo instead of LiDAR, since most people maybe don't know what LiDAR is as a technology. And it's awesome, man. When you toggle them on and off next to each other, like you can see so much more terrain with HD topo than you ever could with standard topo. And yeah, it's an awesome upgrade. Right now, it's elite only, so you got to be an elite user to check it out. But it's pretty killer.
$99 for a year.
Yeah, $99 a year. And people complain that that's expensive. Everything's expensive these days. Everything's gotten more expensive, but you get a ton of value for $99 a year. This
Well,
podcast probably isn't meant to be pitched to buy on X, but like you get all sorts of stuff as an elite member. You get benefits, you get pro deals, you get free courses, you get a bunch of other tools like Hunt and Fool, and we're going to talk a lot about draws tonight. You get Onyx's Hunt Research Tools, which is our draw and research tag research tool.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get a ton of benefits being an elite member, and premium is $35 a year. So it's not that much more to just upgrade to elite. You get all 50 states plus Canada. So if you're gonna hunt out of state, you're covered. You don't have to worry about if you have the right state turned on. There's a bunch of elite features. But honestly, one of the best values is you get pro deals with like 50 brands that we partner with, like First Light or Golly. There's free courses on Elite. Like if you want to do a retriever roadmap and train your dog to be a bird dog, we've got a couple courses for that. We've got rifle courses, we've got bow courses, we've got all sorts of stuff. And then you get access to Hunt Reminder, which is a tool so you never miss a draw. You get access to Hunting Fool, which is a ton of content around hunt planning and what units are best for the game you're chasing. And then you get access to Hunt Research Tools, which is got draw odds, harvest rate, land metrics, historical trend data. So you can look back and see what the harvest rate was 10 years ago and what's happened over the last decade. You can look back at tag trends. How many points did this tag take in 2022? How many points should it take in 26?
Yeah.
You can see those trends. Like it really helps to plan where to hunt, how to hunt, what tags to get. So all that is included with Elite. To me, it's worth it. I mean, I work here obviously, so I use the tool a lot, but I use the tool almost every day, and not work related, just looking at things. I use it for real estate. I just bought some property. So I've got my property all marked up of where I want to put the house, where the fence lines are, like where I've seen deer.
Yeah.
Like it's awesome for a private landowner, as well as a public land hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's all sorts of things you can do in the app. So yeah, I think it's of value for sure.
Yeah. I just want to go back and touch on the LiDAR thing real quick, because one of the biggest knocks on Onyx probably like 4 years ago or prior was the fact that the 3D topographical was deceiving to how actually steep something was.
Totally.
And so the LiDAR is a good solution for that.
Yeah, the LiDAR has allowed us to have like a much better high visibility topographic maps, but also it's allowed us to do 3D elevation. And so now you can turn your map into 3D mode, which we had, but it wasn't as crisp and high resolution. Now with LiDAR data, when you turn on 3D mode, like you can spin around and you can see exactly where the draws are. You can see exactly where the cliff lines are, or where there might be a little pass that you can get through. Like it's pretty amazing. I went on a goat hunt this year. You mentioned it at the beginning, and being able to look at that mountain range in 3D, I'm hunting at 12, 13,000 feet up above tree line, lots of scree fields. Like being able to look at that terrain from home on 3D, like allowed me to e-scout so much more than I could actually put my boots on the ground on. Like, and I could see where I could actually get up, where I could exit, where there was stuff that was too steep or too dangerous to even attempt. Like it helped me plan so much more in depth because I could see with such clarity, like the terrain and the relief. It's awesome, man. I mean, 3D and HD Topo is like, it's gotten to the next level.
Yeah, it's awesome. So some of the things, just real quick, wanted to highlight for all you listeners, because if you are a current Onyx member and you didn't know about that, then just even more reason to dive into the app the more and more you go. Also, weather thing. I use weather all the time, especially down here in Texas, because I'm whitetail hunting. I always got to know where the wind is at my stands and what that looks like. But when it comes to your weather, there is what are you guys pulling from? Is it NOAA that you're pulling your weather from, or how is it more accurate?
I'm not sure who the provider is. I know we used to use Weather Underground or NOAA. I know we switched providers recently in the last 2 years to a provider that has more stations throughout the US.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that data, like all our data. We get our data at Onyx from third parties, and then we collate it, right? And we put it into layers, and we make it look good, and we make it accessible. But yeah, the weather data is awesome. Like, not only can you see weather to the closest location from where you are, you can add weather to a waypoint now. So you can see weather on a waypoint that is somewhere else. You can add wind directions. You can understand what the wind's doing. We've got a deer prediction model now that's AI driven, and it takes in weather data as well as historical trends of what deer are doing that time of year. And so that will give you some insight into like what deer movement should look like. We got sunset and sunrise obviously in there. We got barometric pressure, which is awesome if you're a long range shooter and you need to know barometric pressure. We've got highs and lows. We got moon phases. Like there's all sorts of really interesting weather data in the app today. And
What I'll just jump in real quick is
yeah,
it doesn't just give you current weather, you also can have forecast in there.
totally.
And
You
that's
got
one of the
weekly
big things you can.
forecasts and you have hourly forecasts. So the hourly forecast is huge, especially if you're a whitetail hunter sitting in a stand. Like you want to know what the wind's going to be doing in the morning versus the afternoon. And that might mean you change stands or you get out of there, you got to go in a different way. Like that's super crucial on a small piece of property,
Mhm.
right? To know like I can't come in from the east because the wind is blowing from that direction.
Right.
So yeah, you can set up little arrows, which is awesome on waypoints that tell you if the wind is actually in the direction you want or if it's bad. So it'll be like red if it's bad or green if it's good. Knowing, well, maybe I should go to this other stand where the weather's actually looking like it's going to be better. So yeah, there's a ton of awesome weather features in there that have been updated in the past year or two.
Yeah. Pretty wild. It says weather at your stand, not just your zip code, right? So you're not
Totally.
just pulling a big area and being like, well, it said wind was out of the southwest, but I got to my hunting location and it was blowing completely different. So, all right, brother, you mentioned the goat hunt. Do you want to start there? Do you want to dive into what was the progression of your season? What'd you do?
Yeah, let's start at the goat hunt because that was the first hunt. So you said once in a lifetime, and that's probably accurate for most people. In Colorado, technically, you can get another goat tag, but it takes years and years and years. I think I had 9 points, but I'd been applying for I think 15 or 16 years. I figured out when I was in college, I was too broke to be paying for the preference points,
Yeah.
and so I just applied and I had my 3 preference points, and I didn't build. I've been building the last 7 or 8 years, and I think I had 9 points. So that got me this tag, and ultimately, the reason I got this tag was our hunt research tool, our draw tool, like really helped me determine what is the right unit and what's the right season based on me just wanting to get a tag. So my plan this year was like, I'm going to go for the best unit. And that isn't always the unit that has the highest draw odds.
Mhm.
Sometimes in Colorado, how the system works, there's some nuance around uh, a unit that has more tags, even though it has lower draw odds, might actually be a better unit to apply for because there's more chance and opportunity the way they do the draw. Uh, they do this crazy mathematical equation with your draw number,
Yeah.
and they like turn it backwards and then they multiply it and then they switch it randomly, and you have to be the lowest number. And so if you apply for a unit that only has one tag, like you have to be the lowest number. But if you apply for a unit that has 10 tags, you have to be one of the 10 lowest numbers. So you have a little more chance there. Anyway, I found a unit that made sense for me, and I got lucky. I struck with 9 points, and man, that was like I've never gotten a goat or a sheep tag or a moose tag, so that was pretty amazing. And this unit, man, I went in, I talked to some biologists. Colorado does a pretty cool system with sheep and goat tags. They have like a meeting, a podcast meeting type thing online that you go to when you get your tag, and the commissioner talks. And then they have a meetup with I think it's Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance. I think I'll have to. I don't know exactly who put it on. Maybe it's Bighorn Sheep Alliance. But you can go in person and you meet people, other people with tags. They'll let you know who had the tags the past couple of years, so you can call them, which is also a benefit that Hunting Fool does. So that was cool. So I called a couple of people with old tags. I talked to biologists at these meetups, and then I got in there. I did 3 scouting trips and hiked into 14, 15,000 feet. Dude, and I saw a ton of goats. I mean, I like this unit ended up having 31 tags that they gave out. It's the unit with the most tags in the state. And I saw a lot of goats. And
Wow.
goats, the hunt for a goat, what I learned is like it's not that hard once you find goats because they're not that scared of humans. Like in Colorado, there's a ton of hikers and trail runners all summer. I was in the mountains kind of near a big ski resort, ski town. So like there was lots of people in the summer recreating. And so these goats weren't that scared of people. I actually, during one of the scouting trips, had a goat come in to 6 feet, a big Billy, saw me at 300 yards. I, I stayed still and he came in to 6 feet curious about
Wow.
me. So at that point, this was like early August, and I was like, man, this is going to be great. Like, I'm like, should I bring my bow and archery hunt this? Because you could archery hunt or rifle hunt this tag. And I was like, this is going to be easy. That did not happen during the hunt. No goats came into 6 feet. I never saw that Billy again. But I saw 16 goats during my actual hunt. I was up there for 6 days. I went in 4 days early, and I went in 5 days early, actually, and I shot my goat on opening day. But I had spent 6 days up there during the hunt. I did 3 scouting days. So it was 9 days in the backcountry, up above tree line, nasty storms. I mean, it was epic. And where I ended up shooting the goat is the best part of the story. This goat was 200 feet up on a cliff, straight cliff, on a little rock pad that was probably 6 feet by 6 feet. And I was with a buddy, and he was like, I wouldn't take that shot. That goat's going to fall off that cliff for sure. And I was like, I think I can anchor this goat on this cliff. And we were at 580 yards, I think. And I was like, but I got to get closer. So we got to 380, and I got set up. And this goat put its head behind a rock. And I thought, well, if I can dump it now, that rock will keep it from rolling off this cliff. And I set the shot and dumped this goat, and it didn't fall off the cliff. And it was like the oh shit moment of how are we going to get up to this goat? But it was the exact hunt I wanted. Like everything was kind of happening. It was early morning. This goat was on this little cliff. And so me and my buddy had a rock climb up there, and we get to the top, and this little ledge was so small. This goat's feet were hanging off the edge of the cliff. And I got video of that as we approached it. All 4 of its feet were hanging like 2 inches off the edge of the cliff. And there was not a lot of room up there. But it was epic, man. It was fun. It was the hardest hunt I've ever been on, for sure. Hunting at 13,000 feet is no joke. Finding goats, ultimately not that hard. Harvesting a goat and walking around at 13,000 feet and getting it off the cliff. And we actually had to hike up and over a mountain and over a pass and through a bunch of scree to get it back to my camp because I was in a different drainage than I was camped in. That all turned out to be like one of the hardest experiences I've ever had. And I've been hunting elk in the Rockies for 20, I think this was year 22. So like I've had some hard experiences, but man, hunting goat is no joke. Like you watch these videos of the guys in Alaska hunting mountain goat, and it's the same in the lower 48. They are in the hardest, most remote portion of the mountains you could ever imagine. They're up in the cliffs, they're at the top, they're on the ridges. Like it is no man's land. But man, what a cool hunt. It'll be one I remember forever. And I can't apply now for, I think it's 7 years. I can't apply. Maybe it's 5 years. I'll have to check. I can't even apply for points for the next 5 or 7 years. But as soon as I can apply for points, I'm going to dive back in because I'm 42. If I could get it in the next 20 years and do it before I'm 65, I would 100% do that hunt again. But holy smokes, it's no joke. It was hard.
Okay, just real quick. I don't understand how if you shoot something on a cliff, you actually get it. Like how does that work?
That's funny because there was another goat hunter there that morning that watched us shoot this goat, and they were like, we were watching that goat, and we were like, there's no way to harvest that goat. Like, so they passed on it, and we watched them shoot a much smaller goat. And as we were walking up to it, they're like, good luck, you're never getting that goat. That was stupid of you to shoot. I don't think they like really meant it that way. They were pumped that we killed a goat, but they were for sure skeptical of how we were going to get this thing. And me and my buddy, we rock climbed up there. I mean, we're pretty agile in the mountains. We both had experiences mountaineering, climbing 14ers, getting to the top of peaks. And so we found a way to get up to this thing. We had to go around, and it was not easy.
Now, when you say rock climb, are you talking like
we didn't have ropes?
You didn't have ropes.
We didn't have ropes. At one point, I thought of bringing ropes because I thought we're going to have to lower a goat off of a cliff. It wasn't that gnarly. Like in the rock climbing terminology, it was called class 4, which is like,
it wasn't in the 5s yet.
No, it wasn't in the 5s. So like you could like go up it, but you're using your hands and your feet for sure.
Yeah.
To like scramble up.
Yep.
And we didn't go up the actual cliff. Like we went around and got as high as we could and then traversed over to it. But it was like too hard to do anything after that. Like we couldn't get it down. So we butchered it on this little 6 foot by 6 foot cliff ledge. And we took it apart, put it in our packs, and we down climbed with a half a goat each in our packs. And of course, you know, like I took the trophy. So I've got the whole cape and the head. Like our packs were not light. And that was the hardest part, was getting off that cliff, not actually getting to the goat, was getting the goat with us safely off of that thing. Yeah, it was gnarly, man. I mean, I would say if I were to do it again, I would for sure bring ropes and like a belay device and a harness in case you had to rappel down to a goat or repel a goat off a cliff. Like you could easily get yourself into that position on a goat hunt. If you're like, there was no other option, this is where I had to kill this goat. I probably could have killed a goat in an easier location. Don't get me wrong. But this one felt like the goat hunt I wanted. Like this was what I had dreamed of for years, of like, I'm going to be up on this steep knife edge ridge and shoot a goat on a cliff. Now, if I waited for 2 hours or 5 hours, that goat would have probably came off those cliffs and I could have shot him in the grass down by a lake. But it wasn't what was in my mind. And it was early morning and I'd seen two other hunters on opening morning. Reminder, there was 31 tags in this unit. So there was other hunters going to be around. Like it was a wilderness unit. It was hard to get in, but there were still people in there. And so I didn't want to wait. I had been up there for 5 days already and I was ready to harvest my goat.
Man, that's wild. I just want to give a little clarification for all the listeners who are not familiar with climbing. So there's 5 classes when it comes to climbing. First, class 1 is hiking or running on a flat trail, right? So like what we do every day, that's class 1. Class 2 is simple scrambling. You may use your hands occasionally. It's generally low risk. Class 3 is what's called scrambling. A rope could be carried for safety, but we've all scrambled through rocks. Think of you as a kid playing on like a hillside. That's scrambling. Class 4 is simple climbing. It often requires a rope. Falls could be serious, and you're going to be putting your hands on the ground. And then class 5 is technical rope climbing. Requires belaying for safety, and unroped falls can be dangerous and deadly. And then that's where you get your typically you start at like a 5'5", 5'6", 5'7",
Totally.
all the way up to 5'11", and ultimately,
That's like hardcore climbing, like
yeah,
climber.
that's rock climbing,
Yeah.
what you would
I mean,
imagine.
this was dangerous. Don't get me wrong. Like at any moment, if you would have slipped and fallen, you could have died. But if you don't slip and fall, it's like pretty straightforward. Like just don't have a big mistake. But like you could easily I mean, that little pad we were on when we were butchering this goat got pretty bloody and it was super slippery. And at one point I had to tell my friend, I was like, let's take a break here, man, because we're getting heated up and I don't want either of us to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And like as we pulled off one of the quarters, like I kind of almost fell and it scared me. I wasn't close to falling off the cliff, but it scared me enough to be like, we got to slow down. Like, let's take our time on this thing.
Yeah.
So
When you're saying you shot at 350, and a lot of people might not have reference for how large a mountain goat is, especially a large mature billy. What caliber rifle did you choose to shoot on this? And was that a big decision based off of if you had to anchor an animal or drop it in its
yeah,
tracks? And where'd you aim?
yeah, I shot a 7 PRC, and I brought that bigger caliber. A goat's actually pretty small. Like they have a lot of fur. When you actually get down to it and you actually take the fur off and you start butchering them, they're like the size of a pronghorn antelope. Like their bodies are pretty small. But I knew that and I wanted to make sure I could anchor an animal. So instead of bringing like a 6.5 or 270, I brought my 7 PRC, which is probably a little more than you need on a goat. But I've heard goats are tough. They die hard. So I wanted something a little bigger. Yeah, and I held right on its front shoulder, and he dropped, but he didn't dump. His head was still up, so I had to take a second shot on him, and I shot him in the neck because all I could see was his head wiggling in the air, and I didn't want him to wiggle himself off that cliff. So I took a second shot through the neck and dumped him then. And yeah, I mean, if I hadn't hit that second shot, he could have very easily wiggled his way right off that cliff, and it was 200 feet down to a scree field. I assume his head and the fur would have gotten destroyed for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the meat would have been damaged. So I didn't want that to happen. I will say this, I'll admit it. It probably was not like the smartest location for a shot, but I knew I could make that shot. I hosted this earlier in the year. I hosted a 3-day precision rifle course with a company I run. And so I was feeling really good on my gun. I'd been to the range a bunch. I spent those 3 days shooting out to a mile with my hunting gun, not my long range gun. And so I was like ready for the need to potentially take a 700 or 800 yard shot.
Mm-hmm.
So at 380, I was feeling really good and confident. Like this is a chip shot at this point with all this practice this year. That's still a far shot. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people will listen to this and think I'm sandbagging. It's a far shot, but I'd practiced a ton and I'd put my long range scope on the 7 PRC. So I had plenty of magnification and yeah, I mean, I hit him both times and dropped him right where I wanted to.
How windy was it up there? Like, were you really having to play the wind at that distance?
This one I wasn't because this was 6 a.m. So like it was right as the sun was coming up and there was no wind. But 2 days before I got stuck in a storm And in my tent, I was at like 12,600 feet or something. And it was the gnarliest night of my life. Like the
Wow.
wind at 12,000 feet with no trees to surround you. I was in a teepee, one of those Argali teepee tents. It was, it was terrifying. Like, had it been that windy, I wouldn't have taken that shot.
Mm,
But
man.
luckily, it was nice the morning. This is early September. The season opened September 2nd. So, it was beautiful blue skies that Colorado always has. It was warm. Like, it was a nice morning, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Man, you're getting me going. The worst, most like scariest time of my life was camping on a backpacking trip on the top of a mountain during like one of the gnarliest storms.
Yeah,
I thankfully was not in a teepee style tent. Was in a normal, what people would consider a bathtub bottom tent,
totally.
and I was on granite rocks at the top of this. Now this is in the Cascade Mountains in the state of Washington, so Pacific Crest Trail. I don't know what, maybe 6,000 feet, 5,000 feet. Not like crazy high, but I was at the top, and it rained so hard that the water didn't seep into the ground. It was on rock and it ran downhill and it
Huh,
flooded where I was at. And I had to
yeah.
get out and drag my tent over rocks and slept on a hillside. And it was like a waterbed underneath my tent
Oh,
all night
yeah, that's
long.
the worst, man.
It was crazy.
Yeah, when you get stuck in a bad storm, I had some bad storms this year on some of my hunts, but when you get stuck in a storm above tree line like that, in a tent without a bottom, like I woke up and there was a couple inches of snow, and this was like 2 days before, so this was like August 30th, 31st, something like that. Like it was I was like, oh man, I'm in it. Like there's snow and I'm at 12,000 feet and who knows what's going to happen next. So
Right.
yeah, it was harrowing for sure. After I killed that goat, I was pretty ready to get down out of the high country. Because I'd lived up there for a couple days and it's hard to live above tree line, man, for 6 days. Like there's no shade. So I was super sunburnt. Of course, I forgot to bring suntan lotion on my hunt. Like, who thinks of that?
Right.
So I was super sunburnt. I was tired. I just like it's hard to live at that high of altitude for that many days. And every day I was putting in 10 miles of hiking,
Right.
looking for goats. I went into every drainage that my drainage connected to. So I saw a ton of country and had a plan for opening day, but I was pretty exhausted by the end of it.
Was glassing for goats actually kind of easy? Like you just got to get high enough and you look for these bright white spots on the mountain.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's that time of year, there was no snow up there. And so they're bright white spots. They're sitting out on green, grassy meadows. This unit I was in has a lot of goats. And like I talked to a lot of people in that area that hike and told me where there were goats. I pilfered Facebook for goat sightings, which like hikers on Facebook love to post mountain goat pictures. So like I was able to find a ton of relevant mountain goat pictures from August right before I was going up there. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. But yeah, I mean, if you have a good pair of binos and you're willing to sit and glass, you're going to find goats in units that have goats because they pop out, right? And there's no trees. So everything's above tree line. So you can see them.
That's
It
wild.
was awesome. I mean, it was awesome watching these goats. I got to see a ton of little kids, baby goats. I saw. I got to watch goats for 6 days. I've got a ton of footage. They're awesome little animals, man, and they have no fear of any terrain. They just run up these cliffs like they're nothing.
That's wild. That's so
I
cool.
would say even if you don't think you want to eat a goat, it's really good. It's
That
delicious.
that was my next question.
But B, like the hunt itself is so high quality. Put in for these tags, like get the points. I had 9 points. That's not that many. Like this isn't a 30-year tag. Like I had 9 points and I went on an amazing DIY goat hunt with
Hmm.
my best friend. Like it was epic. And I'm so glad that I've been putting in for points for enough years to get it. Colorado system's unique. It's like a weighted random draw or weighted bonus draw. So you have to have 3 preference points and then you're in the draw. And then after that, you're getting bonus points. And so like your odds go up a little bit, but you could get this with 3 points. Every year people in Colorado get goat tags with 3, 4, 5 points. So it's not as inaccessible as you might think.
Hmm. Interesting.
It takes some planning. And when you get a go tag, like it takes a lot of planning to actually pull it off. Like it's not 100% success rate. It's hard terrain. I was in a wilderness area, so you couldn't use side by sides or any mechanical ways to get in there. I also picked part of the wilderness area that you couldn't ride horses into. So there was no one in there. There was no guided hunts. There was no one on horseback in wall tents. The only people that could get in there were on feet. I did bring a llama. I do a lot of hunts with llamas. So I brought one llama to carry my stuff and then carry the goat out. But with me and my llama, I could go for miles and miles and miles. It was awesome. And so it was a pretty unique spot where there was like no one on horseback up there. There was no guided hunters. Like it was totally DIY, and it was an awesome experience.
That's so cool. That is so awesome. Well, what a great way to kick off your hunting season.
Yeah,
So,
it was awesome, man. It was a great start to the hunting season to get that goat under my belt.
so you did that, and then what? You went into deer, and then elk, and
I
or
went into elk first. So I do a first season rifle elk hunt, and I hunt in the southern part of the state. We had two new guys. It's a group of four of us, and two guys dropped out from last year. And so we had two new guys come. Actually, one of the new guys that came was Matt Seidel, who is another Onyxer. He was the first employee at Onyx 14 years ago when they were making chips in the garage of Eric's house. So it was cool to hunt with him and hear all the stories of him and Eric getting Onyx off the ground, going to trade shows, trying to sell these things to stores in person. So that was awesome that he got to come. And we had 4 bull elk tags. We went to, again, another wilderness zone. We used Drawd's tool. We used hunt research tools to find a unit that both worked for me and my buddy who are residents of Colorado who had no points because we hunt elk every year, as well as a buddy, Matt, who's out of state. He's a Montana resident who only had 2 points. So we couldn't go on like some 15-point hunt or 20-point hunt. Like this was a no points or 2-point hunt. We found a unit, again, wilderness area, which tend to be a little easier to snag because people don't want to deal with the wilderness area. And we marched in 12 miles to where our camp was going to be at 11,200 feet, again, right above tree line. And this one, we took 8 llamas. So we had a whole clan of llamas. 2 llamas per person is kind of the right ratio for an elk hunt if you want to be able to get all the elk out in one trip. And we were far enough in that we didn't want to do a round trip to get out of there early because that adds up pretty quick. We had to do that a couple of years ago, and it's 25 miles round trip to do a load, and then you got to go out again. So it's like 36 miles to get out of there.
mm-hmm.
And so we brought 4 llamas, and we got in there. The day we started, we had all these crazy floods and storms in southern Colorado. If you guys saw the news in early October, the Balsito River flooded, and they had to evacuate people. It was soaking wet. It was the wettest I've ever seen Colorado, and I've lived here since 2001.
Wow.
And we hiked in 12 miles all day in the pouring rain, got soaked. We were in our rain gear and our underwear. That was it. And we got up there, and the first 3 days were rain and snow. We had a tent collapse. My buddy Matt, he had one of those Seek outdoor tents, and it just got overloaded with snow and wind. So it collapsed in the middle of the night. They had to come into our tent. Luckily it held, but it was a long night, man, holding the poles up and hoping that these things don't blow over.
Wow.
And opening day, man, things cleared up, and I got lucky and killed a 320-inch bull opening morning.
Nice.
It was awesome. It was the only bull we saw that morning, and he was in some willows, 320 yards. I made a move on him, watched him for about 10 minutes, and he stepped out, and I dumped him. And it was an awesome start to the hunt. And the rest of that day, we didn't see any elk. It was a bummer. And we thought this might be the only elk. The storm probably pushed elk down. Like there was snow on the ground. It was the first major storm in the high country of the year. And so we didn't see any elk the rest of day 1 or day 2. And we were kind of getting down on ourselves. It was only a 5-day season. And we had already been in, we went in 3 days early. And so this was day 5. We hadn't seen any elk. And day 6 comes around, and we got another bull, a little meat bull, a little 4x4. And we were pumped on that. 2 bulls, 4 people. Everyone's getting a half an elk. Like we're feeling pretty good. And Saturday rolls around, which is day 4 of the hunt. And we all, 4 of us, go out together rather than splitting up. And we got lucky and put down 2 more bulls Saturday morning. And
4 for 4.
So we got 4 bulls down in 4 days, and had all Saturday afternoon to bone these things out at camp. By then it was sunny and nice and warm. The snow had melted. Llamas were happy. And we packed up camp Sunday morning and packed out of there. And on our way out, we ran into an outfitter that usually hunts the lower portion of this unit. And they were coming in to pack out their gear They had said they canceled their hunts. They told their clients it's a no go. The floods were too bad. The rain was too bad, and so they didn't bring any clients in. And so we had the place to ourselves, which was awesome. Um, and it was really awesome to know like they couldn't even get their clients in there on horseback, and we got in there on foot in the peak of the storm. So that was pretty rewarding to feel, even though we were wet, we were soaked, we were demoralized on day one. By the end, coming out Sunday, which would have been day 7 or 8 of us being in the backcountry, we were all pretty high spirited. So yeah, it was a great hunt, man. It was epic. The llamas did great. They carried out. We calculated it because you have to weigh the bags for the llamas. They got to be exactly even on either side. And so we weighed all the bags to put on the llama. We had 960 pounds worth of gear and meat before we put the heads on the back of the llamas. And so with the heads, we figured we are probably right around 1,000 pounds. And we did it in one trip. I mean, those llamas were pretty killer, man.
That's awesome.
They were awesome. If you haven't hunted with llamas, it's a pretty fun experience. They can go to places that horses can't. They're pretty easy to take care of. So yeah, the elk hunt was a super big success this year. 2 new guys. One guy was the first elk hunt he's ever been on, so he's spoiled now forever. Another guy, Montana hunter, hadn't hunted Colorado in a while, so that was cool to get him on an elk. And it was the biggest elk to date that I've harvested at 320. So it was a banner year for the elk hunt.
That's awesome. Shoulder mounting?
No, I've got a couple shoulder mounts already. So this one I'm gonna do a Euro mount, and I've got a buddy who does this like really cool art on Euro mounts where he covers the whole skull with beeswax, and then he like heats up the beeswax and gets it on the skull, and then he takes yarn and he slowly like heats up little portions of the beeswax, and with a cuticle tool, little wooden dowel, he like pokes the yarn into the beeswax and makes these really cool designs. I've got one in my living room, and so I'm going to have him do one of those with this, and it's going to go over my fireplace at the new house on the land once we get that built.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm super pumped. It's gonna look pretty awesome. I got to get pretty savvy these days for my wife to let me hang things in the house.
Right.
She's not so into shoulder mounts. So like if I can turn it into art somehow, she's more into it. And so yeah, so I got to figure out I got to be tricky and turn these things into art.
That's funny. That makes sense. So my wife, my bull that I shot, she was like, when you're 80 years old and sitting in a recliner, do you want to be staring at a skull or the head? And I was like, you're a winner. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Marry that girl.
easy
Yeah.
choice. But since then, I actually just got my first 2 shoulder mounts of my deer last year. So this is my Nebraska buck, first
Yeah.
out of state deer hunt, and then that's my first archery buck, Texas here. And she's like, "Those are going in your office, right?" Like,
That's the nice thing about a whitetail. It can go in your office. Man, an elk shoulder mount, man, you got to have pretty tall ceilings. And they're no joke these days, price wise. It's like $2,000 to get a shoulder mount done. Like it's expensive. So yeah, I'm doing the Euro. I got a bunch of shoulder mounts in closets and in the garage. I got one at my mom's house in her garage.
Yeah.
They're gonna go in the barn at the new property because yeah, my wife doesn't love them.
Yeah.
So I've learned over the years, like with the goat, I'm doing this goat mount where it's gonna be like I got a 1980s like JanSport frame pack, super cool, looks all vintage. It's got leather on it, and the aluminum is all painted gold. And so I'm gonna like roll it up and put it like it's hanging out of that backpack. So again, I got to get creative and turn it into art so that she'll let me hang it somewhere in the house.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll just go in the garage. So
I love it. I love it. Okay, so you smashed a goat. Did you use the 7 PRC again on the elk?
I did. Yeah, that's my elk gun. So it was probably overpowered for the goat, but elk hunting, man, that 7 PRC is awesome. It's a Weatherby 307, and I've got it in one of those MDT Hunt 26 carbon fiber chassis. So it's super lightweight. The chassis folds, so you can throw it in your backpack. It is an awesome rifle, man. I love it. I don't know if I need to hunt with any other rifle. Like I love that thing.
I fell in love with the gun this year also, but it's actually short action, 22 Creedmoor.
Yeah,
freaking love that gun.
Yeah,
like
I bet that's fun to shoot.
It's a lot of fun. You'll be shooting that when you come down here to Texas to hunt with me. Actually, that might be a great pronghorn gun. Really.
Yeah, Yeah, it's
So,
awesome. Does that fit like all the specs? Like I know 240 in Colorado, 243 is the smallest caliber you can hunt big game with. Like you can't hunt with an AR if it's a 223. Um, I wonder if 22 Creedmoor fits the bill. I know six Creedmoor fits the bill because that's
mhm,
basically a 243. But I'd have to look at 22 Creedmoor.
yeah.
It's an interesting caliber for sure. I like all these new calibers that have come out. There's a lot of fun toys out there that I want to get my hands on.
Dude, so much fun. I know we took it to Idaho for bear this last year because there's no caliber restriction on that for up there. But all right, so brother, you went 3 for 3. So
Yeah.
you fill a goat tag, incredible. You go 4 for 4 on elk hunts, incredible. And then deer season rolls around. What happened?
Yeah, so deer season, I pulled a tag just in my local town. I live in Fort Collins, northern Colorado. So I just pulled the tag for my local unit here, figuring like, oh, there's a state park you can hunt in. I'll just hunt locally, and it's not a big deal. Like, it'll be a low stress hunt. It was a buck tag, and I had a buddy who had the same unit with a doe tag. So we were going to hunt together since we weren't competing with each other. And I wasn't that concerned of getting more meat. What I wanted was I wanted to take a really long shot. After taking after hosting that precision rifle course this spring, I was feeling pretty confident. And so I wanted a long shot. I wanted something that was in a new area that I hadn't hunted locally. And so I found an SWA, a little state wildlife area that was pretty close to the house that I'd actually never hunted. 22, 3 years of living here, I'd never even walked into.
Hmm.
I'd driven by the parking lot a million times, but I just kind of wrote it off as like maybe that's a rabbit spot or a coyote spot.
Yep.
And so I went up there one day after work, afternoon. It was like late in the afternoon, like 4 o'clock. I got in there and I hiked in and I sat on this ridge and uh, I'd call it a meat buck at best, but it was a buck and it was at 600 yards and little forky, so probably a two-year old buck. And he walked into 531 and stopped and I put him down with one shot. And it was a pretty fun hunt. I was by myself. Um, he dropped so fast. I actually thought at one moment I missed because I couldn't reacquire him in my scope. And so I actually came off my scope and got on my binos, and I couldn't reacquire him. And so then I just started looking with my naked eye because it was getting dark. This is like I don't know 2 or 3 weeks ago, so it was getting dark at like 4:30. So it was like 4:20 by the time I shot, and I was like, I just don't see him, man. Like he must be down because it was a pretty wide expanse. There wasn't a lot of vegetation, so I would have seen him if he had taken off. And so I marked where I assumed he was on Onyx. We have this awesome little rangefinder feature that you can mark with a rangefinder if you've got a SIG or a Leupold, which I do, or you can do it with your phone in rangefinder mode and point it at where you think your shot is. So I ranged it, dropped the waypoint where he should have been at 531 yards. And as I'm walking down the cliff line, it gets dark, and so I got over there in the dark, and he was exactly where my waypoint was. He didn't take a step.
That's
It was
awesome.
amazing, dude. And I've harvested an elk at 608. I've never harvested a deer up over 500 yards. So 531 was a good poke on a small buck. And so I was super pumped. It was warm a couple weeks ago still here in Colorado. So I took my time butchering him, quartered him up, got all the meat in my backpack, and walked out of there by myself. And it was like really rewarding to do that close to home, less than 10 miles from my house. Um, Packed the whole thing out in one load, you know, took the long shot, perfect shot. As I was opening him up, like right through the heart, man. It was awesome. He dumped, and yeah, so I got my mule deer done, and yeah, 3 for 3. I mean, I never thought that was going to happen this year. I've had pretty good success in the past hunting. I usually hunt pretty hard, but this deer tag was a moment of opportunity that just appeared because it was after a work day on a Monday. I was only going to sit on that ridge for probably a half an hour until it got dark, and here he came and walked out into the open, and I had a
Perfect.
nice elevated position, was able to lay down flat on this cliff and take a prone shot and put him in the freezer. So yeah, it's been a great hunting season. And honestly, like I can't I can't be grateful enough. Like getting these hard to get tags. Some of these are easy to get tags, but you still have to have a plan. Like I didn't 10 years ago, I didn't plan my hunts. I would just get an over the counter bull tag and hope to get a deer tag on the leftover list. And I would go on these low quality hunts. and having a plan and finding units that have higher quality hunts. And I mean higher quality hunts in the terms of an adventure, like going into a wilderness area for elk, um, hunting an SWA close to town. That's totally different than just my normal spot in the national forest. Like, so I wanted something new this year, taking a long shot, like not, I mean, I obviously would have taken a 200-yard shot if it was a big 200-inch mule deer, but, testing myself, pushing that distance out, like I checked a couple boxes this year, and it felt pretty rewarding. I'd been going through the motions for a couple of years. I'm just going on hunts, and this year was totally different. All three of my hunts were different this year, and it was awesome. Having these new experiences is, to me, what hunting's all about. So I'm pumped. And again, back to the plan. Like, you got a plan. I know we're going to talk about draw odds and HRT, hunt research tools, but that tool honestly opened up the door to me these past couple of years to going on higher quality hunts. And this year was a prime example of going on these amazing hunts and having great experiences, all because I planned a little and didn't just go for the over the counter tag.
I love that. It's a great segue. So a lot of people just think, okay, it's December. I'm thinking about next year. What do I want to hunt next year? And how many points do I have? You are saying, like, take a look at it, but also plan for the future a little bit more. So, yeah, I may have 4 points here, but what can I draw with 6 points or 7 points
Totally.
in 2 years and start, figuring it out. So just take us through what it is that you feel like the listeners need to hear.
Yeah, I think just having a plan is important. If you want to hunt every year out in the West, it's getting harder and harder. Most states don't have over the counter opportunities anymore. Colorado, we're lucky. It's one of the states that still has over the counter elk. But, they're chipping away at that. Like this year, they took away over the counter archery elk for non residents. Non residents could still come during a rifle season, but this was the first year that they had to draw their archery tags. So have a plan. I mean, you could go on an over the counter hunt, but there's also a lot of hunters doing that. You tend to run into a lot of pressure. There's high quality hunts out there that take no points or 1 point or 2 points. You don't need 20 points to go on a high quality hunt. Now that's the goal. Like that's some people's goal, to have 20 or 30 points and go to unit 2.
Now, just real quick, how do you quantify high quality? Are you
Yeah,
saying adventure? Are you saying harvest rate? Are you saying draw
that's a good
odd?
question. That's a great question. I think it's subjective. To me, high quality is lower hunt pressure. I want to see elk in their natural habitat, not being pushed around by other hunters, if at all possible. I want to go somewhere like, so most draw hunts are, in my book, by that single definition, higher quality than over the counter. Now, I hunted over the counter for 20 years and we were successful. Like we had great over the counter hunts, but there was always other hunters in there. So going to the draw, that's one way to get a higher quality hunt. I like to hunt wilderness areas. Again, less people. It's harder to get around. You can't drive a four-wheeler or side by side. There's no roads. So it's just like more wilderness, like more out in the woods. And so like looking for a unit that is maybe wilderness, or looking for a unit that has less tags. Like a unit that has 10 tags is going to have 10 hunters, where a unit that has 1,000 tags has a lot of people in it. So finding those units that maybe have less tags, that usually correlates with less elk, but that's okay because there's less hunters. And to me, I'd rather have less hunters, even if it means less elk. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things that you could quantify. For some people, a high quality hunt might be a truck hunt where they base out of a wall tent, or they even hotel it, and then they get to drive around and they are in the truck with their buddies all day and they don't have to hike into the mountains. Like that might be your definition of a high quality hunt. But to me, again, having a plan. So I know what I like. I like to go into the research tool, find units that are wilderness, find units that don't take a lot of points, find units that don't have a lot of tags, and find units that the terrain is what I want to be hunting in. Like I like hunting in the steep mountains. I want to go to the top of peaks. We were hunting at 12,000 feet for elk, like in October. I don't necessarily want to hunt out in the BLM land on the flats in the sagebrush. There
Yeah.
might be bigger elk down there and easier to find, but to me, I wanted a mountain experience. So, yeah, I think like all those factors are part of the plan. I'm figuring out what unit is right for me, or what unit is right for my buddies. Like that's another thing I got to take into account. Can my buddies hike 12 miles into 11,000 feet? or are they not in shape? Like, like, do I need to go on an antelope hunt with my buddies because that's easier? So there's different styles of hunt, and I think again, just a plan is important. And the big thing, like you were getting to, it's not about necessarily what I'm going to hunt next year. I am always interested in what I'm going to hunt next year, but I'm also thinking, what am I going to hunt in 2 years, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Because some of these states and these hunts I want to go on take points. Now, I'm not a person to, I'm probably never going to have 30 points. I'm already in my 40s. I have no elk points, no deer points. Um, I'm not going to get a 30-point hunt. So I'll probably never hunt unit 2 in Colorado, which is like the premium unit. But that's okay because I'd rather hunt every year, and I'm willing to go on 2-point, 3-point, 4-point hunts or 0-point hunts that fit my needs. And so I'm always planning out into the future. Like I'm planning getting points in Wyoming or go to New Mexico where they don't use points.
Mhm.
Colorado has a big change coming down the pipe in 2028 where all the draw units are going to go 50% of the tags are going to go to the preference points, which is the system today, and 50% of tags are going to go in a random draw. So that's going to totally throw the point system into chaos for a couple of years until it balances back out. And so, like people that have 20 points right now, they're going to find themselves potentially getting beat on a tag for someone that has 0 points because someone can draw unit 2 in 2028, and someone probably will with 0 points or 2 points or 5 points. Whereas the preference point holder is going to need 30 points or 35 points at that point to get that tag. So, like, you got to kind of pay attention to what's going on in the states you want to hunt to know, like, it's probably not worth me getting a bunch of points in Colorado because in 2 years, all the really good tags will also have this random opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I could just apply in the random or for those random tags and hope to get them that way. Wyoming's the same way. They've got a regular draw, which is cheaper, a special draw, which you have better odds, but you spend more money. And then they have a portion of their tags, 25%, that go to random. So, like, you could apply for a tag that normally is a 20-point tag and hope to know you're not going to get it because you only have 2 points. You're not going to get it in the preference draw or the special draw, but you have a chance to potentially get it in the random. So, like, there's opportunity there to have a plan as well. So for me, it's all about planning what I want to hunt for the next couple of years because you can't be short-sighted and only think about what I'm going to do in 26 because that might dictate what you apply for based on what you also want to do in 27 and 28 and 29.
Yep. All right. So I want to have you walk through this system with what I have. So I have 5 deer points in Wyoming. I have 3 deer points in Utah, but let's just use Wyoming for this example. I've never shot a mule deer. I want to shoot a mule deer before, I turn 50. I'm 41 right now. Working on 42. So I'm in the hunt research tools. I've already added my points into the program. I select deer, state, I get Wyoming, and ideally I'm thinking I want a rifle hunt. But that's also because I've never hunted mule deer with a bow, and I don't own a muzzle loader that is made for that. So do I just start going based off of the one weapon that I'm thinking I'm probably
I'll
going
walk
to
you through
hunt?
this. So first thing, once you're into HRT, Hunt Research Tools, go to your profile, set up your profile. It asks for your residency, and it asks for any points, state and species points you might have. So I just mimicked this. I went into my profile. I'm not a Wyoming resident, either are you. So I made sure that wasn't clicked. And then I added deer, 5 points, preference points. It's a preference point system for non-residents. And then, I've got deer, Wyoming. Now, weapon, you can choose rifle, or you could choose rifle and archery if you're considering bow hunting it, and you'll get both of those results. So you can do a multi-weapon or multi-state, multi-species, whatever. But the easiest way is one state, one weapon, one species. So let's just do rifle to start.
Okay.
And once you hit apply or the red button, you'll see all the opportunities you have. And it's automatically going to sort these highest to lowest on your draws. So right off the bat, I see a ton of hunts that are 100% at 5 points. So, like, there's a whole bunch.
100% says go to the column that says your odds.
Go to the column that says your odds. You can sort that high to low or low to high by pushing the little red triangle. And so I push it so that 100% at 5 points is at the top. And I am seeing, like, as I scroll down, there's over 100, over 180. There are 201 opportunities that are 100% with your 5 points. Now, when you look at the column next to it, it says odds/min points. This is a preference point state. So again, you got to know how these states draws work. A preference point state means that the people with the highest number of points get the tags first. So if it's a 5-point hunt, everyone with 5 points or more, 6 points, 7 points, 8 points, but we'll get that tag. There's a break-even point level. So let's say it's a 5-point hunt. Everyone with 6 or more points is 100% going to get that tag. Anyone with 5 points has some sort of percentage of 1 to 100 that you potentially could get it. And then anyone with 4 points or below, you're not going to get that tag. It's 0. So a lot of people make this mistake on a preference point state to apply for a tag that they don't have enough points for. And then they're frustrated when they don't get that tag. They think like there's a random chance they'll get the tag. That's not how this works. In a bonus point draw or a random draw, yes, you could get that tag. But in a preference point, you really need to know what the break-even point is, because if you don't have at least the break-even point, you have no chance of getting that tag. So don't waste your draw. When I look at this, ultimately from the top, you'll see in the column next to it, the break-even point. So that's the odds at min point. So you'll see 100% at 4 or 34% at 4. So that one that says 34% at 4, the break-even point is 4. Everyone last year that had 4 points, 34% of those people got the tag. Everybody that applied for that tag with 5 points or more got it, and everybody that applied for that tag with 3 points or less didn't get it. So if I'm quickly looking at this and I want the highest quality hunt just based on points, I want to go for something that last year took 4 points because you have 5. Like if you went for something further down the list that only took 1 or 2 points, you're wasting some of your points because you're potentially applying for a tag that only takes 2 points when you have 5. So you're wasting 3 of your points. So I would look at those units at the top of the list that either took 4 points or 3 points, knowing that you're going to get those at 100%.
Okay. And knowing me that I've never shot a mule deer, and it's been multiple years since I've hunted mule deer, my next thing is after draw odds and minimum points, I'm going harvest rate.
Totally.
I'm like, dude, that very first one, type unit 60. We'll throw it out there because people, I haven't applied for this, and everyone can find this.
You're not spot burning.
Yeah,
you can go there and say it was awesome, but by draw odds, totally. This one, unit 60, it's an any deer tag. You want to shoot a buck probably, but it's an any deer tag. So you remember the harvest rate is high. So the harvest rate on that unit is 74%. But that's because that's an any unit or an any deer tag. So a lot of people are probably potentially harvesting does to get that harvest rate that high. That's a really high harvest rate for a buck tag. So like I would go probably to the next one. That's an antlered mule deer only. And look at that. That one, you could get that tag. It's unit 79. And that is a 44% harvest rate. That's an awesome harvest rate for an antlered deer tag in Wyoming. There's plenty of public land. So we got public land metrics. There's 351 square miles of public land, and 48% of that is public. So half of the unit is public land that you can just go hunt. And then we've got this hunters per square mile ratio, which tells you how many hunters have this same type of tag. And it's less than 1 per square mile. It's at 0.32. So like it's higher than some of these other options. Wyoming has very low densities of hunters. Like you'll see some of these other tags are 0.04 hunters per square mile. So 0.32 hunters per square mile is high, but it's not that high. Like some units have 5 hunters per square mile. That's when you're seeing orange everywhere. So if that's too high for you, then maybe you go to the next tag, which is unit 132, and you see that one's got a lower harvest rate, 29%, but it's got a much lower hunters per square mile. So right off the bat, like I can see there's a bunch of units here that are really interesting with 5 points. Unit 132 has got 1,100 square miles. It's huge. You can also hunt unit 133, 134, 168. So you can see what additional units you can hunt. And so like maybe 132, the first 2 days of your hunt, you see nothing. You could move to 133. So like,
now, but is my tag only good for one unit?
No, when it says additional units, that tag is good for all of those units included. So that's a pro and a con. Like the pro there is you have tons of space to figure out where you want to go hunt. The con is 4 units is a lot of space to come up with a plan A.
Yeah.
like, because you could go anywhere basically. 66% of this unit is public land. So like you can almost go anywhere. So that almost makes it harder in my mind. Like I like one unit and then I have to figure out where in that unit I want to hunt. If I have 4 units to hunt, I start going a little crazy during e-scouting time of like, well, where do I want to go?
Yeah.
Like I could go over here, or I could be at 50 miles to the east in this other unit. Maybe that's awesome. And it makes it almost too big for me. So, but it's just nice to know, like you could do a little more research. You could read some biologist reports from the state. You could look at some herd health data and determine maybe 134 is actually the unit I want to go for deer. Or maybe a big storm comes in, or there's a fire in the middle of summer in unit 133. And so I have to move out of my unit. So like there's pros and cons to having tags that are good in multiple units.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, man, see, now you got me thinking. I already am like, okay, I should just apply for this unit 79 deer tag. I had 100% draw odds. It's pretty high harvest rate, at almost 50%, 44%.
I'm going to throw you a curveball here.
Yeah, do it.
Because the way this is organized is it's showing you your 100% tags. So right off the bat, your draw odds at 100%. That automatically is going to mean that all these tags are 4, 3, or 2, or 1 point tags. So if you scroll down to where your 100% ends, it'll start showing you tags that are less than 100%. So there's always going to be this little sweet spot in there of tags that are going at the same number of points that you have. So you'll see there's one that's the first one out of 100% is 50%. And that is a tag that at 5 points, that's 50%. Now, you're not guaranteed to get that tag. Last year, everyone with 5 points, only half the people got it. But that's antlered mule deer tag. It's got a 76% harvest rate. Like that's a pretty high quality unit. People are killing a lot of bucks. There's only 8 tags, so there's not going to be a bunch of hunters. Now, you're not guaranteed that tag, but it's a 50-50 coin toss. And then you'll see there's one below that at 41%. Again, great tag, 55% harvest rate. And then you'll see all the tags below that show 0%. Those are all the tags that take more points than you have. So like right off the bat,
19.
there's a 19 point tag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to, you need to get 14 more years of tags. I don't think you want to wait 14 more years to hunt mule deer.
No.
So my opinion is like, look at the ones that go at 5 points or go at 4 points. And those would be the ones I'd apply for. So right off the bat, there's 3 or 4 units there that are interesting to me.
And is there a way can you filter out just the units that you want to start eyeballing?
You can. So right now, unfortunately, we don't have like a compare or save feature. We're going to build it. That's coming in the future.
Oh, that's
but
nice.
You can filter these down by unit. We have a whole bunch of filters. So you can filter these by anything. Male only, veteran tags, youth tags, percentage of draw odds, harvest rate. Like there's tons of filters in here to get you to less options. The goal should be get to as few options as possible that meet your criteria. So you don't have 258 results, which what this list is right now. Mm-hmm. You don't have 258 results to look through. So what I would do is I would write down the few units that you're interested in, like unit 120, let's say, is that 5 point tag.
Yep.
And unit 79, and go into the unit filter and just click the unit 79 and the unit 120 filter.
Unit 79. I'm trying to find that sucker. Was that up at the top?
Yeah, that was at the top. That was that 4 point tag. So I'm going to do it too. So unit 79 and unit 120, and then hit apply. And now you'll see there's only 4 options. And you can see that there's 2 of these options that are 0 point tags. So those are probably not worth you wasting your 5 points on. So there's only 2 options now in this list. It's that units, it's that type 1 unit 79 tag and the type 1 unit 120 tag. So now you've got it narrowed down pretty quickly. Let's say 5 minutes we've been talking. Mm-hmm. The 2 hunts. The 2 hunts that meet your criteria. Yeah. One is most likely guaranteed based on last year's draw odds. It only took 4 points to get. One last year at 5 points took 50%. And we can check and see if there's point creep on this. But that one is a maybe. So now the way to look at these units in more detail is in the unit column. You'll see there's a little link and it's underlined unit 79. If you click on that, that's going to go to what we call the unit page. So on the unit page, you're going to see the draw odds chart, which again, you can see 34% of people with 4 points got it. Everybody with 5 points got it. Everybody with 6 points got it. Everybody with 7 points. And you can also see tags trend. So the quota Looks like the quota's gone down a little bit. So back in 2020, it was 315 tags. Now, last year in 25, or this year, earlier this year, it was only 193 tags. When I look at that historical data, that's telling me the herd health might be going down here.
Mm.
The state of Wyoming is giving out less tags than they historically gave out. So the biologists, the way this works is the biologists go and do their counts, and they recommend how many tags we should give out. So it looks like it's been on steady decline since 2021. It's gone from 315 to 270 to 244 to 195, and last year they only gave out 193 tags. So that's a little bit of a red flag, but not that important. Still a lot of tags. There's still a lot of deer in there. Then you can see how many applicants. Applicants were rising, and then last year there was a steep decline in applicants. Again, I think this steep decline probably is related to the fact that maybe something happened in this unit that degraded the herd health. Maybe there was a big forest fire 2 years ago or 5 years ago. Maybe there was a big winter kill. So that's interesting to see that first choice applicants dropped by so much. Then the next chart you'll see is minimum points required. And you'll see there's a little bit of point creep going on here. In 2020, this was only a 2-point unit. And then it became a 3-point unit, and then went back down to 2, and then it's slowly been creeping up the past couple of years. Now, this is most likely because they're lowering the number of tags they're giving out. So as tags decrease, if demand doesn't decrease, then it's going to take more points to get. And so this has some point creep going on. Next year, I would assume that this actually probably either stays at 4 or maybe goes back down to 3 because there was that steep drop off in the number of first choice applicants. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, you'll see harvest rate. So harvest rate is one of the most important charts. And you can see this one's pretty steady. It's slowly declining, but it went from like 53% to 39 to 51. Like, so there's some good years and some bad years. Last year was at 44%. It's hovering between 35 and 50%. So a pretty good unit. So even though the number of deer is going down, harvest rate is holding steady. So this is a pretty interesting unit to me. Like, you could get this unit. There's less tags. That's appealing to me. So that's one way to look at this unit. You've got all the data, and now you could go back to your search results and you could look at that unit 120 and compare that as well. And then you kind of understand what's going on behind the scenes, like what is the health of the herd, what are biologists kind of telling us with this data, and determine like maybe the other unit is on the rise. I'll let you do that because this might get too boring for people listening to if you go through too many hunts.
Okay, so and there's the hunt code is type 1, type 3. So there's different seasons that you can hunt, and the type 3 is actually any white-tailed deer. So
yeah, so Wyoming is pretty confusing. They have a bunch of different types. I think they have 9 types of hunts. Type 1 is like your standard buck tag. When you go to type 3, that's going to be limited based on species. I think type 6 and 7 are like are antler list tags. There's one type that's private land or depredation hunts only. So like you do need to do a little research on your own to understand exactly what the different types mean. We have articles about this at Onyx in our content feed. Like we've written a bunch about it. Hunt and Fool has a ton of information. They're an awesome resource to go to and learn about the tag types in Wyoming. But that is important to understand your tag type.
Interesting.
Wyoming is one of the only states that does that has all these different tag types. Like Colorado doesn't have that. It's either a buck or a doe tag or an either sex tag. There are no these weird tag types. And sometimes there's a private land tag, but they don't call it some special type. It just says private land only.
Interesting. So even though we're not going to go through this all the way, I went to that unit 120, which was a 5.50% drawed, and the tags available actually have been staying pretty doggone steady, like across the board. First choice applicants drop significantly, which is awesome. And then
this actually has reverse point creep going on. Like it was a 7-point hunt, and then last year it went at 5. So this one's actually really interesting. If it goes at 5 again this year, or even 4, like this could be kind of a gem in the rough. Because 2 years ago in 24, this was a 7-point hunt, and you could potentially hunt it with 5 points next year. Harvest rate looks amazing. I mean, harvest rate has been hovering in 21. Harvest rate was 90%. Like harvest rate's hovering between 64% at the lowest end and 90% at the highest. So like this is a really interesting tag. So now that I know this, look, this was good that you pulled this up and we did both. because now that I looked at this, I would say unit 120 is kind of my first choice, and unit 79 would be my second. And now my next step would be to go up to the map and go into Onyx Hunt and do some e-scouting and really look at the map. We have maps in HRT, but they're very basic. They're just an overview, so you can get an idea of like what kind of land is in this unit, where can I hunt. But if you go over and you click on the go to Onyx Hunt button, it will open Onyx Hunt right with that same unit, and and then you can do some e-scouting to determine, is this unit actually the unit I want to hunt? And just right off the bat, looking at this unit, I can see
It's a lot of Indian
that
reservation.
a lot of Indian reservation, which you're not going to be able to hunt. The area that you can hunt is all BLM. So this is going to be more of a sagebrush hunt, which again, high harvest rates and probably high harvest rates because there's not a lot of trees and people can see for long distances and find the deer. So this, but again, if you want to do a mountain hunt, this isn't going to be a mountain hunt. I don't see any national forest really in this unit. I see all BLM, and this is just a very cursory overview from very zoomed out. But it's like BLM on the northern edge of this unit is where you're going to hunt. Now, if you go back to 79, let's look at 79 real quick. 79 has a lot of BLM, but it's checkerboarded, but it also has this big portion of Medicine Bow National Forest. So you could go do a mountain hunt if you want a mountain hunt. There's a bunch of national forests up in the pines, up in elevation, if that's the kind of hunt you want to have. So these are two very different styles of hunts. It's cool that these two are the two that we're deciding between.
Interesting.
Because one is going to be a mountain hunt and one is going to be a full-on BLM, flatland, dusty sagebrush hunt. And it depends on what kind of hunt do you want. They're both going to be great. They're both awesome opportunities, but some people don't want to drive around BLM land. They want to be hiking in the mountains. Some people can't hike in the mountains, and BLM hunt might actually be the best option.
Man. Okay. So what a fascinating, like, I don't believe in coincidences. The fact that the thing that I was like, hey, let's just go through this for practice and talk about it for all the listeners turns out to be something that is bringing up a lot of interesting points when it comes to planning your hunts, having a plan, having an idea, and then, going for it.
Yeah. Again, this is all like this was 10 minutes of research. And we came up with a much better plan than just like my buddy told me to apply to unit 7. Right. And I don't know anything about it. Or I hunted unit 7 with my dad and my uncle for the last 20 years. And that's what we do. We hunt unit 7. We haven't seen elk in unit 7 in 10 years, but we just go and it's elk camp. When like maybe the unit next door, this is like just like random, but maybe it's unit 8. Maybe unit 8 has a great hunt and it only takes 1 point. So like skip unit 7 this year and save a point, and next year go hunt unit 8 and have a great hunt. Like I think there's opportunity there to just kind of have some sort of plan and know what you're getting into. And after this 10 minutes, like once I decide on these 2 units, there's another step that's out of this tool. It's like, go read everything you can online, go to the forums and ask about unit 120, go see if there's any biologist reports for Southern Wyoming that include unit 79. Like what are they saying is going on with the herd health? Like obviously they're reducing tag numbers. So somewhere there's a report where a biologist said, we need to reduce tag numbers in this unit. Where is that? Can I read that report? So like if you really want to take it to the next level, most people don't, especially for a deer. But like I did this for my mountain goat. Like I wanted to have the best odds I could of harvesting that goat because I might not get that tag ever again in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called biologists, I read reports, I called people who had that tag in the past. With those species where it's like once in a lifetime, most people are willing to tell you all the stuff they know, the spots they went to, where they saw stuff, because they can't do it again. So they're not holding those secrets like we might for our little honey hole for elk or deer near town. So like I pulled out all the stops for that hunt. A deer hunt, I probably do a little less of that, but still, like you're going to a new state from Texas to Wyoming, that's a big expense. It's a whole week. You're going to be away from your family. You want to have the odds in your favor. I would call biologists. I would call the rangers in that area. I would ask, like, what have they seen? Where have they seen elk at that time of the year? Are they still up at high elevation? Can I get to that high elevation? Are they at low elevation? Should I be hunting the BLM? Like, get a plan together. And it all starts with figuring out what unit or 2 are going to be your first choice in your draw. And so then I do this for every state. So rinse and repeat. So now you did it for deer, Wyoming. Now you can do it for elk in Wyoming. Then do it in deer in Utah. elk in Colorado, and figure out what state you're applying to, where do you want to potentially hunt. Make sure that you're not applying to hunts that are going to overlap, so that if you accidentally get both tags, like you have to cancel one. And in some states, you either get a refund or you get your points back, but you don't get both. So as an out-of-state hunter, that's a huge risk if you get 2 tags that are the same week. Like, what do you do? So you got to plan a little bit around that if you're a multi-state hunter, which my plan would be, well, if I know I can get this Wyoming tag with 5 points, great. Maybe in Colorado, I just put in for points and not actually for a drawable unit, because I couldn't hunt these 2 hunts this year together. So like, those are the plans I'm talking about putting together, so that you don't end up with an oh no, I just lost all my Wyoming points because I can't actually hunt it.
Right.
Or I just spent $3,000 on tags I like that are overlapping.
Right. That'd be horrible.
Right. I know there's rich hunters out there, but like, I'm not one of them. I can't afford to just give Wyoming an extra $2,000 for a hunt I can't go on. So again, I think like a tool like this really helps narrow it down. But we also have the season dates in there, like, so you can very easily determine, do these 2 hunts overlap? You can look at the point types. You can figure out with these point tables, like, okay, like this one, I have 3 points, let's say, for that hunt that you were interested in, and it went for 5. So maybe if I wait 2 more years and just keep doing the point game, in 2 years, I could apply for this hunt probably.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that frees me up to say, I'm not going to hunt Wyoming this year or next year. I'm going to wait until 2027 and hunt Wyoming. And this year, I'm going to put all my eggs in the Colorado basket.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't have any points in Colorado. Okay, great. Well, let's keep getting points in Wyoming, and let's get an over-the-counter tag in Colorado.
Yep.
And that allows me to keep hunting every year while I'm still collecting points in other states.
Right. Right.
So there's lots of strategies out there. And I think, like, use the tool. We do a bunch of webinars in the spring with Hunting Fool. Great. And I do a bunch to teach people how to use this tool. Come to those webinars. They're free for all Onyx users. They're invaluable. You can ask questions of the Hunting Fool guys. You can ask questions of me and the guys from Onyx. We won't tell you what tag you should get, but we'll tell you how to use the tool to help you determine what tag's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
So like, these are great resources, and use them. All this stuff is free for our users. So why not? I mean, the Hunting Fool guys are like pure draw geniuses. Those guys know everything about everything, like tapping their brains to figure out where's the best place you can hunt with 3 points, like, is actually worth it. Even if you think 3 points isn't a lot, they can tell you, like, there's a great hunt with 3 points. Like, we just went on a great elk hunt this year. 3 guys had 0 points, and 1 guy out of state had 2 points, and we killed 4 bulls. So like, you don't have to have 30 points. That's my whole point. You don't have to have points to go on a great hunt. There are great hunts for guys with no points, 1 point, 5 points. Like, there are great hunts out there. I personally say, don't wait, spend your points, because you never know when a state like Colorado is going to change the point system. And now these points you've been building for 20 years aren't worth that much, because half the tags are going to random. Like, all the states are dealing with how to change the draw to make it more equitable and more fair. All the states are ramping up prices on tags. So like, there is demand. And so I just personally don't want to wait, because what if one day, like, I can't hunt that species in that state?
Right.
Like, what if, like, they do what Washington did and they take away the spring bear hunt?
Mm-hmm.
Colorado took away the spring bear hunt in the 90s. I've never hunted a spring bear in Colorado. Like, what if you had a bunch of points for something and then they took it away? So my goal is, I want to hunt every year. I want to go on high quality hunts, and I don't want to wait 30 years to go to a hunt that I might be too old at that point to even do.
Right. Well, it's interesting just comparing the Unit 79 and 120 that we're talking about. So not only is it, you're comparing BLM land versus national forest, so mountain style hunt, but you're also looking time of year. So the BLM land is a rut hunt, November 1st to the 15th, and the mountain style hunt is going to be early October.
Totally.
Like, that's another huge factor.
Huge factor. I mean, chasing rutting deer in the sage sounds pretty fun. Like, you're going to see them. They're going to be out there. If you find does, there's going to be bucks chasing them. Hunting bucks in the timbered forest in early October, that's going to be a hard hunt. Like, that's why that harvest rate's lower for sure. Like, they're going to be harder to find.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on, again, the experience you want to have. I mean, as I look at this map, Unit 79, like, there's a ton of checkerboarded. This is all along I-80 in Wyoming. There's a ton of checkerboard in that area. And this is another thing to consider. Like, that checkerboard historically has been off limits. for the last 20, 30 years. But this year with the Circuit 10 court decision on those corner crossers up in Wyoming made it legal. So that went all the way to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court denied hearing that case. So as of today, like, you can legally corner cross. Now, you might get a ticket and have to go to court, but there's precedent that says you were legally in your rights. And there's a ton of checkerboarded BLM land out there in Unit 79 that probably hasn't been hunted that hard. And so that's interesting to me a little bit. The time of year, maybe not, because they're probably a little higher up still in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But you could drive around all that checkerboard and look for deer if you wanted to do a truck hunt one day, and then the next day go back up into the mountains. So like there's a little variability there, whereas in 120, like it's BLM and only BLM, and that's what you're hunting, period, end of story.
Yeah.
So again, like all these things go into my decision-making process of what kind of hunt do I want to have? Like if I'm doing a big mountain elk hunt, maybe I just want to do a late season deer hunt in the BLM. Like that sounds awesome because I already had my mountain experience and I'm probably tired by that time of hunting season.
Yeah.
So again, you got to think about all this. And then we usually hunt in groups, right? Like a lot of us don't hunt solo. So you got to also think, I have 5 points, but my dad or my uncle or my brother or my friend only has 2. What can we get and go hunt together? And so now that changes the whole dynamic. I got to look for points for units that he can get with 2 that I can maybe burn a couple points if I'm willing to. Or maybe there's units that are next to each other and we can camp kind of on the border and we can both hunt solo during the day. So like with group planning, this is super important because usually everybody has different residency types, different points. So like this year we hunted with a guy that was out of state. So we had to find a unit that worked for him out of state. Luckily he had 2 points, but also worked for us as residents that we could get with no points. So the tool helps for group planning too, which is huge.
So let's say I have a buddy with 2 points for mule deer.
Yeah.
How do I add that to the system for it to search?
Yeah, great question. Today you would go in to your profile and change your points to 2 and pretend you're him.
So I lose. It doesn't average the points. It's just lowest point person.
Well, I mean, if you're actually going for a group application, some states do, all states do. They either average the point or they take the lowest point. I don't recommend that. I don't think there's any advantage to that system. I would just both of us apply separately for the same unit based on what we can get with our points. The good news is we are adding a points override feature where it's being built right now that will allow you from the search results to change the point value without going into your profile and updating all your own profile stuff so that you can have your profile set, but then you can go look for your buddy and say, I want to change this from 5 to 2 and see what this results list looks like with just 2 points. Yeah. And so that should be out here fairly soon. It's going to be out by app season 2026. So in the new year, but that's going to be an awesome feature for group planning to be able to see what I can see from my buddies, but also for myself. Like I have 5 points. What would my odds look like on these 3 or 4 hunts if I changed that to 7 and I was willing to wait for 2 years? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I can wait 2 years and then I can delete that and it doesn't change my profile at all. So that points override feature will be pretty sweet once it comes out.
That's awesome. Awesome. All right, brother. We've covered quite a bit on this podcast, so yeah, I appreciate it. Is there anything real quick that you feel like needs to be touched on before we wrap this up?
I just say app season's here. I mean, Idaho was yesterday for non-resident deer and elk. Alaska is coming up in the next 2 weeks. Wyoming is at the end of January. So like it's time to start thinking about next year and what your plans are going to be. A lot of the bigger draws happen later in the spring. Montana and Colorado are in April and so on. New Mexico's in March. So you got a little bit of time. But if you're looking at Alaska, if you're looking at Wyoming, it's time to start the planning game. And my big takeaway here is any plan is better than just trying to go over the counter or get a leftover tag, or even just going to the same unit you've gone for 20 years and you're tired of. Like, try something new. I think you'll learn a lot and you'll probably have a lot of fun, even if you don't harvest anything. Like, it's pretty fun to go to a new unit and try it out.
All right. So real quick, one thing I feel like we need to mention, we're talking about researching and all that. Hunt reminder.
Yeah.
So if you log into Onyx, and that's only for elite members, correct?
Yeah, that's for elite. So if you are elite, you get a free membership to Hunt Reminder, and you can put in all the states and the draws and the species that you're interested in, and it'll send you an email or text or both and remind you a week before the draw deadline and then the day before the draw deadline, so you never miss another draw again. Super crucial. I know a lot of people, close friends of mine, that always miss a draw, and then they're stuck hoping for a leftover tag or trying to get on an over-the-counter hunt or buying a private land voucher or going on an outfitted hunt that's $5,000. Like, don't miss a draw. That's crucial, especially if you're also building points. You can't miss a draw if you're building points. A lot of states have these crazy rules that if you miss a draw 2 years in a row, they delete all your points. So if you had 20 points and you missed a draw 2 years in a row in Wyoming, they take your points away.
Whew.
So that would suck. So don't do that. Always use Hunt Reminder.
And how do you find Hunt Reminder?
What's that?
How do you find Hunt Reminder?
Yeah. So if you're in the app, if you're in Onyx, you can go into the menu, which is the 3 bars up in the upper right-hand corner on your phone. And then there'll be a button that says Elite Benefits, and there'll be a button there to Hunt Reminder. If you're in WebMap, there's also an Elite Benefits button on the left-hand side. You can find it there. Or you can go to our website, onyxmaps.com, go to the Hunt tab, and then go to Elite Benefits, and there'll be a link there to Hunt Reminder as well.
Sweet.
The Hunt Reminder is crucial. Definitely use Hunt Reminder. It's better than any calendar reminder. Calendar reminders, you have to go look up all the dates. Hunt Reminder just knows them all. It's all set up. The second thing I say is go log into Hunting Fool. Hunting Fool has you get a free e-magazine every month that has all the Western states. You can check out all the draw data. You can check out all their preferred units. They have research around what is going on with the herd health, what's going on with biology reports for all like the key units. So if you're thinking about going on one of those hunts, it's really good to read through that. It's not included for free, but if you want to talk to them, one of their advisors, to figure out what you should apply for, you can sign up as well and do a call, one-on-one call with one of the hunt advisors. And then lastly, log into HRT. It's not actually part of Onyx Hunt in the app. It'll take you out of the app. It'll open in its own web browser. It's awesome to use online right now on web. We are updating the mobile experience as we speak, so that'll be out in the next couple of days. So it'll be better on your phone. But this is a lot of data, so it is hard to see on your little screen. When I'm doing research, I'm usually sitting at my computer, doing it on 2 screens. I've got all sorts of tabs open. But check out HRT. It's getting better on mobile very soon. And have a plan. Just have a plan. That's all I'm asking you guys to do. Have a plan. And lastly, I'll put one more pitch out there. Come to our webinars this spring. Come to the webinars. We do webinars based on Western species. We do webinars based on specific states. We do webinars on how to use the tool where I show you guys all the ins and outs, all the filters, how to get your account set up.
Yeah.
Come to the webinars. They're super beneficial. We'll have our first one in January before the Wyoming draw. They're super beneficial. You'll learn a ton, and you have access to ask us questions in real time. And we always give away something at the end. We gave away some shotguns last year. We give away swag.
Sweet.
So there's always something to win at the end of it. So
sweet.
So come check it out.
I love it. All right, brother. Really appreciate it. You're awesome. Guys, I hope you learned a lot and took away from this episode, because I'm already being like, okay, it's now or never. It's time to get after it. Get in the game. Listen, you're going to miss every shot you never take. Go get in it.
God, man, I think that's a Wayne Gretzky. That's great. We got into sports even. I
Well,
appreciate it, dude. Thanks for having me on. I can't wait to come back, and I'll see you in February at Western Hunt.
yeah, sounds great. Be blessed. Remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good, as mentorship is conservation. For Johnny Mack and Paul Ronto at Onyx, be blessed, freedom on. And as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure.